Thank you for joining us. This is our second Facebook Live during this COVID-19 crisis. And I'm joined with the Chief Constable, Andy Marsh. Thank you for joining us. So since the announcement that the Prime Minister made last Monday, we've all had to make some really big changes to the way that we lead our lives. And there has been a lot of questions that you have raised with me on social media, through our email and through the police email. And so really what we want to do today is try to go through some of those questions, but it's never been so important that we are open and transparent and working in partnership. We will get through this together, but we have to get it through together. So one of the things we're going to do is just talk about some of the questions, but some of them are very, very specific. So before we move on to some of the specific questions, Andy, can I just ask you to just say a few words?
So what we've done is we've changed many of our ways of working, how we're dealing with the demands that are being placed on the organisation and the service, which means that we're freeing up as much time as possible for our police officers and PCSOs, and they're out in the communities. I've been out alongside them in the communities, and what we're doing with the communities is we're engaging, we're explaining what this legislation means and what's required of them, and we're encouraging them to do everything they can to comply. And what we've found is a real strength of solidarity, real public support, and a real willingness to do our very best to close this virus and its spread down.
Because the things that we hear about on the news, we're talking about a tiny minority, aren't we? The vast majority of people are really following the rules, aren't they?
The vast majority are following the rules. I think there's a small number of people are thinking that it might be fun to play games to try and work around them to suit their own needs, but actually this is serious. We're doing it to save lives, to protect our NHS. So that's very important. And there is obviously also a very small criminal minority that we're working very hard to clamp down on. And we made a number of good arrests for people trying to take advantage of the situation yesterday and overnight. And we'll continue to do that. So we've got lots and lots of officers and PCSOs out there in the community.
And in fact, we've got 60 new officers going out and 30 PCSOs going out starting next week, don't we?
Well, it's important that we keep the flow of new officers and staff going. So yesterday, at a good social distance, we said cheerio here to 60 new officers. They've given up a week of their leave. They're going out 3 weeks early and they're at their new stations today. And I just saw, spread out across a grassed area, 32 new police community support officers that are going out about 4 weeks early. And we're doing everything we can to keep recruiting people. We've also got a list which we're working on of officers who've volunteered to come back. And we're looking at a number of measures that we can use to make the most of our special constabulary. This is all in case a significant part of the workforce becomes sick and we've got new challenges. At the moment, the force is doing very well, and I do want to pay tribute to the brilliant men and women who are out there policing right now.
They are doing an amazing job, and we're getting a number of compliments about the understanding that the public are giving to them. So let's have, we've had a lot of questions about using the car, about jumping in the car, going to more remote locations for daily exercises. Can you explain why the police are advising against this?
So it's important, I think, to try and put across the spirit of what's intended, as opposed to look at the fine detail and try and find a way to do something or not do something. So the idea is actually to prevent transmission of the virus from household to household. So we want people to stay at home as much as possible. Now, we know that people need to get out so they can exercise once a day, run, walk, cycle, maybe from their home address. But once people start using their cars, they start coming into contact with petrol stations and pumps, when they will generally want to go to similar places. So Western Seafront was packed before some common sense broke out, and it was realised that wasn't sensible. Some beauty spots in Somerset, and this is where we've put leaflets on the cars, where people are driving 30 minutes an hour to get to a beauty spot to then do some exercise, and they're gathering around the ticket machine, they're coming in close contact to each other as they squeeze in and out of the cars that are getting congested. So we're urging people, please follow the spirit of this legislation, use your common sense and stay at home as far as possible.
Okay, I think that's really useful, because if you understand the principle behind it, then it just makes a lot more sense.
I think it's important people to think, well, what is the government trying to achieve here?
Yeah.
And actually, if you think about, well, how do we do that however inconvenient it is and however much of a nuisance it's going to be, it's for 3 weeks, and if we give a really good go at compliance with it, then hopefully what we'll see is the virus transmission flatten off and the government will be able to release these measures.
And I think we acknowledge that it really is inconvenient. It's tough for a lot of families to be able to have to stay at home with, you know, financial pressures, with physical pressures, and also, you know, with the children being at home. This is a really tough time for them, isn't it?
It is tough. I've got two teenagers at home, bless them, and you know, there's things that they want to do and I'm saying no. And I'm lucky enough to have a bit of room to bounce around in. My heart absolutely goes out to people with very young children that you can't reason with at all in a much more confined space. And what I would say is thank you so much for complying. Thank you to the NHS for doing the brilliant work they're doing. And if we can all stay at home as much as possible, we'll get through this the quicker.
Thank you. So we're being overwhelmed with questions regarding volunteering, MOTs, walking dogs. Are the police the right place to come to for those?
So there's a number of different avenues. There's a government website which is collecting volunteers, and I think we're up to 600,000 for the NHS. Yep. We are part of something called a Local Resilience Forum. It's chaired by one of my chief officers, ACC Nikki Watson, with health, with local authorities and other partners. Actually, they're managing a volunteering cell, and it's possible in the coming weeks, we don't know how this will pan out, but we're getting ready for it, that they may need some volunteers to help with the distribution of food and other essential services to vulnerable people. So there are places on the internet you can volunteer. We're making the most of our special constables and other volunteers to try and get them doing safe things that comply with the spirit of this legislation and help keep policing on the road.
Excellent. So we've also had a few questions because people are really concerned about the welfare of your officers.
Yeah.
So what are you doing to make sure that they've got the right equipment to keep themselves safe?
Well, we're doing everything we can with what we call personal protective equipment, PPE. There isn't a national shortage. I'm told there is a stockpile, which is a distribution problem. We know that the NHS are the first priority, dealing with people suffering COVID symptoms, and clearly we wouldn't want to elbow in front of them, but I want my officers and staff to have what they need. So we're making local arrangements, and we're firmly hooked into the national arrangements, and we're told there is no problem with supply and it's coming very, very quickly. We did do some very short-term problem solving through the Local Resilience Forum, where alongside the NHS and other social care agencies, Glastonbury Festival were kind enough to give us some hand gel and some face masks, which were distributed amongst the LRF. So at the moment, we're making do with what we've got, and very, very soon we will have the very best equipment. We're trying to look after people in other ways, their physical health, make sure we don't burn them out, but their mental health. This is an incredibly stressful time. I know that you haven't stopped for many hours, for many days, so we need to be kind to each other and look after each other.
And I think that's for all of us out there, actually, that compassion for everyone would go a long way.
We are hoping for an outbreak of altruism and kindness, never mind a virus.
Okay, great. So we've seen what has happened in other countries during lockdown, and I have real concerns about domestic abuse, and you know, with being confined to your home and all these pressures that we've already talked about, and whether that's you know, inside the home, whether that's domestic abuse, whether that's child abuse, whether it's online abuse. So we've had a number of increased reports of this additional strain. So what are the constabulary doing to get that access to support?
At the moment, all of our reported crime has fallen, which is great, but we're still pretty much at the start of this. We are concerned, as you say, that this might be the sort of circumstances under which we would expect to see tensions and potential increases in all aspects of crimes against the vulnerable. Children, domestic abuse, and so on, and mental health. So what we've done is we've given one of our chief superintendents, in fact, Detective Chief Superintendent Carolyn Belafonte, is responsible for building our delivery plans about how we will respond to crimes against all sorts of vulnerable people, including domestic violence. I think the important thing that anyone watching this needs to know is that we will continue to investigate those offences, including online internet-related child abuse, we will investigate all of those offences. So if there is a crime happening and you're worried about it, you should ring 101 or 999 if it's an emergency. We're not stopping that sort of work. The other instruction that has gone out across the whole force to all of the officers that are out on patrol right now is be curious when you're enforcing this legislation under the COVID Act. And curious as in respect of, if there is a child out on the street or indeed someone who appears to be vulnerable, it could be that they're not trying to break the law and spread the virus. It could be that home there are some problems and we need to reach back and find out what's happening there. So we're very much across that, Sue. I know that you do a lot of partnership work with agencies that support victims of domestic abuse as well.
Yeah, we've been working very much with the partners who provide that help. For a lot of them, of course, like NextLink and Missing Link, they in the past they've done face-to-face. Now, obviously, they can't do that, and so for a lot of the agencies, they're working from moving from face-to-face to online, and we're working with them. I think when we know, hopefully, we will start to get some figures through next week, and then we will see what resources that we can give to our partners to be able to make sure that those helplines particularly are still in operation.
And I, together with my whole senior officer team, are reviewing the figures on all of our crimes every single day, 7 days a week, and we're ready to respond.
Yes. So I think that one of the other things that's come out this week is that we've needed to close some of the front office inquiry desks around Avon and Somerset. So could you just tell us, what were the reasons behind the decision and how should people report?
So there were a few reasons behind that. We've got 4 front office locations are remaining open. The reasons are that we saw, and actually this is a good thing, a change in the footfall through the offices, the front offices in Avon and Somerset, significant reductions as people heeded the advice to stay at home, save lives, support the NHS. So first of all, the work fell off in some areas. Secondly, I do think we've got a responsibility to our staff and to the public to explore as many remote ways of working as possible. And we have got very, very progressive digital services for reporting things online. And we've also running a full 101 999 call capability and responding to calls as and when we need to. So it felt like good sense to do that. I think there's a secondary factor that naturally we are experiencing some of our staff and officers sheltering, either because they're very vulnerable or caring for vulnerable people and it would be foolish to come out, or indeed they're isolating themselves because they're displaying some coronavirus symptoms. So we're starting to show early signs that we wouldn't be able to maintain our business as usual footprint of front offices.
Okay, thank you for that. And they can always report first of all online and then if necessary on the 101.
Indeed.
Okay, thank you. So I hope you found that really useful. Please continue to send in questions either on Twitter or on Facebook, or email me on pcc.avonandsomerset.police.uk. I just would like to thank I'd like to take this opportunity to thank your amazing officers and staff who I know are really working their socks off with courage and determination for us to get through this. I would also like to thank all the emergency services for all the work that they have done. And I have been bowled over by the number of people who have come forward to be volunteering for either the NHS or working with us. It just shows you what an amazing place we're lucky to live in Avon and Somerset. I think, my final words would be, this is challenging for all of us. This is a really tough time, no matter where you are in Avon and Somerset. And compassion and kindness and a bit of niceness would really go a long way, because we will get through this together, and there will be issues that everyone has to face, but an acknowledgement that it is tough, but an acknowledgement that we will get through it and we will be a stronger society because of it. So we will be having these Facebooks regularly, so if you want to, please get in touch, but that's all for now, so please stay safe. Thank you.